welcome to Beyond the Boundary. My name is Josh. It's fantastic to have you on board again. This is our brand new segment called News and Views. We've got Nic to my right, as always. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, Josh. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. And Vinay on my left. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. Looking forward to getting into some opinionated stuff on this segment.
As am I.
Should be good. Now, we're calling it News and Views for now, just because we can't think of anything better, really. But if you guys have a better idea, we've got boundary riding for our interview kind of segment, and we've got Beyond the Boundary, which is our usual segment. So if you can think of a better name for News and Views for our opinion show, let us know in the comments section, and we might use it for future reference there.
Absolutely, boys. Now, we'll kick it off with our ladder.
Yep.
We've got the Sydney Swans up the top now. They got the win over your boys on the weekend.
Yep.
They won 11 in a row. The informed team in the competition.
Yep.
They're going to be hard to beat.
Yep. But then there's 4 teams in a logjam behind them, all on 44 points there. We've got Hawthorn, Port Adelaide, Fremantle and Geelong.
Yep.
No particular order there.
No, you're right.
I was right there. And all 4 teams are a huge chance to make that top 4. A lot of people are now suggesting that Hawthorn, if they keep dropping games, they've dropped one against North Melbourne here, they are actually now a chance, after being top of the ladder last week, I believe, to actually drop out of that top 4 there.
Absolutely. And then you got Collingwood, North Melbourne and Gold Coast rounding out the top 8, all on 36 points as well. So they're all very vulnerable, especially with Adelaide and Essendon sitting in 9th and 10th on 32, just a game out. They're all very vulnerable of dropping out of the 8.
And on 24 points there, you have West Coast. Do we think they're out of the race there, Vinay?
I think so. Everyone under Essendon, I think, is out of the race.
Yep.
Yeah. So then you got Richmond, Carlton, the Bulldogs, GWS, Melbourne, Brisbane, St Kilda. So
all sneakily fighting it out for that number 1 draft pick, don't they?
I think St Kilda's got that pretty wrapped up with the way
really?
they played on the weekend. So
yeah. Now, first cab off the rank this week, we're going to have a chat about Gary Ablett Jr. and the effect that will have on not only Gold Coast season, but some other things like the Brownlow medal. It could have huge implications here. A dislocated shoulder it was, Vinay?
Correct. It was a dislocated shoulder. Josh, it wasn't very pretty to watch.
No.
And it was a very unorthodox way to dislocate his shoulder. Usually you see them land on their shoulder and it disjoints, but this time he actually landed on his elbow. And such was the force on the elbow that it actually popped his humerus out of place. So a dislocated shoulder obviously is a very, very interesting injury in that it's one of those injuries that once it happens, the chance of it happening again is increased, twofold. And as it happens over and over and over again, the utility of the arm reduces because, you use that bone, the humerus, to, throw, to catch, to, wave, to lift your arm above your shoulder, more or less. And obviously that's a very necessary skill in AFL football. You have to be able to do that. So Gary Ablett, as far as he's concerned, as you mentioned, very tragic considering that, he was in the box seat, wasn't he, for the Brownlow.
Absolutely.
He was right up there. And the thing is, Gold Coast have come out with an update. They've said that after having done scans, they're going to a specialist, I believe.
Yep, that's correct.
And the results of those will be told in the next couple of days. But to me, I don't know about you guys, but the way I read into that is the fact that they're going to a specialist might not be the best news for Gold Coast fans or any, football fans in general, because what that tells me is they've gotten probably bad news and they just want to double check that it's as bad as it is, and they're not,
So if it's not surgery, how many weeks are we looking at there?
If it's not surgery, I would probably say still about 2 to 3 weeks. Probably wouldn't be surprised if it went up to 4.
Right.
But I'm quite sure it may be surgery, to be honest. And I think it's serious. Even if it's not surgery, I think it'd be serious. So I'm actually not going to say 2 weeks. I'll probably say 4 to 6 weeks. Because the reason I say that is because this morning they were saying that he's damaged the tendons in his shoulder. And often that means he hasn't only dislocated his shoulder, but he's also damaged the actual, muscles and everything around it, which tells me it's quite serious. So,
moving on from the injury a bit, how about the implications on Gold Coast season, assuming they don't have Gaz for an extended period of time?
This is the $1 million question,
The
Josh.
$1 million
Gold
question.
Coast without Gary.
We've talked up their midfield all year. Can they cope without their main man there?
Well, I know it was just a quarter, and it was a brilliant quarter to pull it off to get the win over Collingwood, but you can see the likes of David Swallow, Yago Miro, Dion Pressia, they're able to stand up in a time of need. And that's what they did on Saturday night against Collingwood. I think they can continue to do it.
Me too.
I've said all year long, and you two have agreed with me, that this side is no longer about Gary Ablett on his own. This midfield is quickly becoming one of the best in the competition, if not the best in the competition. So they're going to, who knows, they may improve without him.
It's sort of, we looked at, it's strange when you say that kind of thing, but it does make sense. When we looked at Hawthorn without Lance Franklin, they looked at different aspects of the side. You see younger players stepping up in other positions. where they sort of maybe pushed to the back of the queue with that big that main midfielder in the side. So we could see some different aspects, maybe some different game styles come up from Gold Coast, but I'm not sure it's as black and white as they might be better without him, as we might see better aspects of their game become more prominent.
I don't think it'll be that different, to be honest, without him. Gold Coast are one of the best clearance sides in the AFL. Of course, it'll be different that they don't have this guy, amassing 30 touches and 2 goals a game, but I still think that they've got, like you said, more than enough talent to cover it. I don't think we'll see any major difference in their gameplay, to be honest.
Before we move on, I'll touch on my own here, my own side in Essendon. Joe Watson went out 4 weeks ago. Not arguably, our best player. And we've seen the likes of David Zaharakis, Dyson Heppel, even David Myers on the weekend step up and fill that role. Yep. I feel like the Gold Coast Suns, those young Gold Coast Suns, can do the same.
And quickly before we move on, the implications on the Brownlow medal there. Our Player of the Year leaderboard, I believe before this week we had Gary 11 votes ahead, was it?
11 votes ahead. He's now 8 after Nathan Fyfe. Like, our Player of the Year doesn't count for suspensions or anything like that.
Yeah.
So Nathan Fyfe is on 17 in second spot, but if it comes to Brownlow, we've got Brent Harvey on 16.
Well, you think that Fyfe and Rockcliffe, they've had some stunning games the last month. Both are ineligible due to suspension. So that leaves it open, doesn't it? You've got a lot of people just behind them. You got Josh Kennedy at Sydney. You got Scott Pendlebury, Kieran Jack,
Steve
Brent
Johnson,
Harvey, as you mentioned.
Steve Johnson's ineligible as well.
Steve Johnson's ineligible as well.
Yeah. So you've still got a lot of talent that's pushing up and trying to get that. And wouldn't it be great to see someone, a kid win that? Maybe someone like Kieran Jack or something. So
absolutely.
But it certainly will be sad if Gary misses out because of this injury when it looks like he had it sewn up.
Yeah. Moving on, boys.
Moving on, it's the Toast and Roast. It's backed by popular demand. We had to cut it from the show initially, but we've got the News and Opinions show and we're bringing it back. So, boys, who wants to kick us off?
I think I'll do the honours. So I love this segment because we're all very opinionated people and it lets our opinions shine. My toast, I was in the ear of this man for several weeks telling him that he should have got the Hot nomination, but he didn't, but I'm going to toast him because he deserves it. Tom Liberatore, we've spoken about him at end on this show. We've talked about him, done him to death, but he's been spectacular. And the main reason I really respect this man is because it was only a few years ago that, he was reprimanded by the club for disciplinary reasons. And, a lot of people were having a go at him saying that, he's just another one of those kids that's gone off the rails. But he has had a stellar season. He'd be in my All-Australian side, to be honest. He had 32 touches, 7 tackles, 12 clearances. Phenomenal on the weekend. And I think he's definitely deserving a touch.
We spoke on Beyond the Boundary last week saying that he struggles with Ryan Griffin in the side. He only got 12 touches last week.
Without Ryan Griffin in the side.
Ryan Griffin, and he got 32 this week with Ryan Griffin.
That may be the next big roadblock that he has to pass, but he is in the top 3 for tackles this year, Josh, so that's very impressive.
He's up the top, isn't he?
Right up the top. I think he might be first, but I don't want to say first because I think Tom Rockcliffe might have him.
Last time I checked was only a couple of weeks ago, and I think he was at the top.
All right. Well, he's done himself no harm with 7 tackles this week.
Moving on to my toast this week, it's going to North Melbourne. North Melbourne have been a side that they've been so inconsistent all year, and we've really haven't.
They still are.
And they still are with that great performance against Hawthorn. But to come out in that third quarter, they kicked 6 goals straight to knock off the ladder leaders there. I think that was absolutely brilliant by them, and that might just be the performance that will secure them a finals berth.
Correct.
Fantastic. Mine's David Zaharakis. I love this man. I spoke about it not 5 minutes ago, saying that in the absence of Joe Watson, I believe he's been the number one player to step up, marginally in front of Dyson Heppel. But Zach has been just absolutely phenomenal. Zaka. He's kicking goals, he's getting the ball, he's getting clearances, he's changing the game.
He's very damaging,
He's very, very damaging, and he was best on ground again on the weekend, I thought. So my toast goes to my favourite player, David Zaharakis.
There you go. Now, I don't actually have a roast this week, but does anyone else have someone they weren't too happy with on the weekend?
I wasn't
roasting?
very happy. I wasn't very happy with the Collingwood Magpies. Now, I know you guys are looking at me going, but you had them in your top 4 at the start of the year and all that jazz. I still really respect the club. I still think they're a star club with a star number of players. They've got one of the best midfields in the AFL. But their effort against Gold Coast in that last quarter, something has to be said. Gold Coast were missing their number 1 rebounding defender, Trent McKenzie. They were missing arguably one of their best key forwards in Charlie Dixon. They were missing their number 1 midfielder and the best player in the entire league, Gary Ablett. And
Sean Lemons,
a smaller defender, but still a defender.
Yep.
So they were severely undermanned, and they had no bench. That last quarter, they had 27 interchange rotations, Collingwood. Gold Coast had 2. And surely you'd think that, you'd probably, they're off their legs, Gold Coast. Surely if some Collingwood players had run that much harder, just offered that much more of an opportunity to they had no run at all coming out of defence, and that was really shocking to see.
Well, the thing is, we wouldn't be talking about this if Clinton Young had taken that simple mark.
I think I probably still would be talking about this, because even if Clinton Young had taken that mark, kicked that goal, they probably only would have won by less than a kick.
Okay.
And to be honest, you'd think that against a young side that's completely off their legs, and a team like Collingwood, premiership contenders not too far away from, but
10 goals, 15 as well. That says something as well. So
It's
kicking is bad football.
Bad kicking is bad football. Josh, your roast?
Brian Lake, he has been absolutely deplorable the last 3 weeks, and just is a completely different player to the one we saw in the grand final last year and all of last season.
Norm Smith medalist, you have to be
Norm Smith medalist. Yeah. That choking hold that he had on Drew Petrie is just unacceptable.
Definitely.
Unacceptable.
It's not UFC.
To the point where Petrie was struggling to breathe.
Yeah.
And people are saying Petrie should get weeks and everything like that, and he still may, with this being recorded on a Monday.
Yeah.
I'd be trying to claw the guy's eyes out and punch him as well if he's if 100 kilo bloke's choking me as well. I'll be doing everything I can.
Well, he's definitely not a small guy, Brian Lake. When you've got someone that
Absolutely
big
not.
lying on top of you choking you, you'd be doing everything you could. I think Petrie was very actually disciplined in the way that he responded to it, not actually doing anything out of line. But
well, I think that leads us in nicely. Forgetting the match review panel, which we know how inconsistent it's been well publicised, and forgetting carryover points and bad records and stuff like that. How many weeks for an act like that from Brian Lake do we think? Just straight off the bat, how many weeks does he deserve for that?
I'd say 3.
Yep.
3. I think 3 would be enough. 3.
how many?
3. You got that? 3.
But that'd be enough, I think.
Yeah.
I honestly think it has to be much, much more.
Okay.
I heard on the radio this morning that there was a point, it was on Access All Areas, where Petrie was actually unconscious for a brief period there when he was choking him. That is really, really dangerous. I mean, we're talking something that has the potential to kill a person here. Nathan Fyfe earlier in the year got 2 weeks for a head-high hit, which didn't really have much in it. The player wasn't actually hurt. He got back up, he played the rest of the game, and he got 2 weeks for that. If he gets 2 weeks, I cannot see how Brian Lake would only get 1 week more.
Yeah.
I would honestly feel that he needs a minimum of at least 5 weeks.
I think that's a really good point you touched on there. When we have as I said, the inconsistency of the match review panel before, when there's these head-high bumps and, sliding into certain things and, accidental headbutts and things like that. But there's certain things, and, there was a recent one, the Luis Suarez bite in the World Cup, which, he's banned for however many months and stuff.
Yeah.
I think choking is something that comes into that. It's like a deliberate act, it isn't just something that comes with the game.
Well, it's a malicious criminal act.
Exactly.
That's what it is. It's assault, battery. It's a really, really malicious criminal act that does not fall within the scope of the game.
Yeah. No. And the thing is, it filters down to the lower leagues as well. You got under 10s and under 11s watching these footballers.
Yeah, you're right. Gee whiz.
I mean, they sometimes push and shove and everything like that, but to physically choke a player
this isn't just poor judgment or poor skill of executing a bump wrong and your elbow clutching with his head. He has gone out of his way to...
What Josh said, I really agree with. There are kids watching this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hawthorn have an enormous supporter base, and probably plenty of kids out there going, I want to be like Brian Lake, he's an Norm Smith medalist.
Yeah.
That is not what you want to see one of your leaders do. And Jordan Lewis came out in the week and actually went whack and gave it to Brian Lake and said,
as did Jack Gunston as well. So,
oh wow, okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah, teammates are not happy with it.
Now onto a much lighter note. There was a player he hadn't played in many, many years.
Over 1,300 days he has not played.
Yeah, came back on the weekend, and wasn't it great to see him running out there for the Fremantle Dockers, Josh?
Anthony Morabito we're talking about if you've been living under a rock. But
good on you, Mora. He was superb.
Yeah?
Oh, he was
I didn't see the game personally, but I just felt it was a great feel-good moment. I mean, we've got all these bad issues around Asada. The day before we're talking about Brian Lake. It's just good to have a feel-good story of Anthony Morabito coming back.
Now he's come in, he's had 8 disposals.
That's exactly what I was about to touch on.
Which isn't a huge game, but as I actually touched on him beyond the boundary.
No, well, it was sub.
Oh, as the sub, yeah. But he's come in for his first game back, and you're not expecting a huge output from this player. Any kind of performance from these players who've been out of the game for so long, you were happy with and you were grateful for.
I think they were expecting something from him. He did play for Peel Thunder for, I think, a number of weeks, probably for a month or
all season.
All season. So he did play quite a bit for in the Waffle.
Yep.
So I'm sure Ross, the boss, was expecting something. But as you mentioned, you wouldn't expect him to, set the world on fire probably. But I think this is very nice. He had a game that wasn't brilliant. It was very good, but I think it's enough to earn him a spot in the starting 22 next week.
Well, they played GWS this week, so
surely you'd give him a gig.
I think he'd start this week.
Yeah.
Well, in my opinion, a player that's been out for this long in this kind of situation when his career has been hanging by a thread, just trying to get back for one last shot at it, I wouldn't be opposed to maybe giving him the sub for 2 or 3 weeks, just so he can get a short taste for it, and he can go at 110%. In that short period of time without risk of, overdoing it. And then, I know it's a long period of time he's been eased back into it, but just really just ease him back into it and make sure he is well and truly 100%.
That's a fair point, actually, because the tempo between the state levels and
AFL lifts a lot.
Is massive.
I obviously feel quite strongly about this with the same situation with Daniel Menzel, and I'm quite happy to see him sitting out for another year and having a full shot at the pre-season. Take every second you need to.
You definitely don't want to rush him back. You saw with West Coast doing with Bo Waters, saying no, we'll just give you the year off, get yourself right. So I think more and more clubs are starting to take the approach that Nick's condoning there. So I think that might be the go.
Before we wrap up, boys, we'll go through the Coleman Medal, not our Coleman Medal, the Coleman Medal. Jay Schultz out in front by 5 in front of Tom Hawkins. He sits on 48. Hawkins on 43.
Yep.
And then you got Franklin on 41.
Correct. Only managed the 1 goal on the weekend.
Okay. Not the greatest conditions.
No, but he only had 3 scoring shots.
He did. Vinay's very happy with Eric McKenzie's efforts.
Easy Mac. Put him to sleep. Good on you, mate.
So
just a little plug there.
I think it'd be very tough for anyone to catch Jay Schultz at this point of the year, being 5 goals in front, but it can be done.
Tom Hawk might just pull out a bag
I think only Tom Hawk and Franklin can get him.
Yeah. Well, Hawkins, who I touched on last week, this week was actually the first time in 7 rounds that he'd gone under 3 goals. He'd been so consistent. Whereas Franklin, we've sort of seen, he's sort of come in and he had bad form early on, and then he had sort of bags of 5. But Jay Schultz has just been so consistent as well all year. So it'll be very interesting to see which one of those players gets up and takes home the silverware.
All right, boys.
Thoroughly enjoyed that. We'll keep that going for the rest of the year, I think. It was great to talk about some big issues in the game and give our opinion. So
yeah, and as we said at the start of the show, make sure you let us know if you've got a better idea for the name than News and Views as we've currently got. Definitely let us know that.
Absolutely, boys. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you tune into the round 17 edition of Beyond the Boundary. We got plenty to talk about in there.
It's a massive round, so
very,
very well.
Check it out. We'll put the link up in the top left-hand corner.
Bottom left-hand corner.
Bottom left-hand corner. Okay, Nick does the editing. So I'm just guessing. But boys, thanks for joining.
No worries.
See you next week.